Here we go, we're live. Okay, welcome everybody to Random Dialogues number 15. We're here with you now for the next hour. 6 speakers, each with a story or message to share, and time for quick fire Q&A too. So if you're joining us, and thank you very much, you can always comment and give us a like. Lots of us, well, a few of us haven't spoken before, so it's our first time on an event like this. So we'd love your participation as well. So I'm going to just go around and introduce everybody, and if you could just say where you are in the world and the title of your talk. So can I ask Jim, please, to share where you are and talk about?
I'm Jim Taylor from London. I'm going to talk about experimenting in times of uncertainty and change for the good of humanity.
Fantastic. Thank you. Z. Roselli.
Hello, my name is Z Scott, and I'm going to share how being a single mom and how that is and how I balance that with music and marketing.
Thank you. Bob.
Hi, I'm Bob Davies. I'm in Scotland, halfway between Perth and Dundee, in a very, very snowy environment at the moment. I'm going to give you just a brief talk on my experience of playing rock music in Saudi Arabia. I'm calling it Guns and Guitars.
Fantastic. Very much. Robin?
Hello, everybody. Yes, I'm in Guildford, and I'm going to be talking for a few minutes about what not to say and actually what to say.
Thank you. Fraser Hay.
Hi, Fraser Hay, based 60 miles north of Aberdeen, 14 miles past the back and beyond. And tonight we're going to be talking about resilience in a post-COVID environment.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And I'm Jane Tyson. I'm going to be speaking about the secret of doing so much while staying focused and energized. And I'm based in Guildford, UK, and I'm co-founder of Random Dialogues, which was set up in 2016. And it was all about giving people a voice. And we call this event Stand Up and Speak for Yourself, even though we're actually sitting down. So I'm going to ask Jim if he's okay to come to the stage. I'm going to put him onto solo layout, and Jim will speak for about 5 minutes, and then we'll come back into the 6 square formation and have some Q&A. So if you're watching and you want to leave a comment, if you've got any questions for Jim, then we can engage with you after. So are you ready, Jim?
Yeah, I'm ready. Fine. Ready to go.
Okay, we're behind you. We're all going to mute, and we're going to put you on the solo layout. Off you go.
Really good. Hi. Yeah, today I'm going to talk about experimenting in situations where we're uncertain and there's a pace of change is very, very fast, because I think that in this situation it could be a catalyst for change for the good of society. But unfortunately at the moment you don't know, so you have to experiment. And I think if you experiment on a low cost basis or a small thing and see what happens, then you never know, it might be successful. Now, I'm going to share a story from my soft drinks background, because when I was in Schweppes and Pepsi Cola for many, many years, it was a very, very stable environment, and brands were really, really strong, and there was hardly any change. You couldn't break their monopoly. But then suddenly there was a big change because Coca-Cola decided to change the formula. They changed it to New Coke. With a new formula, and that made a lot of noise and made people focus on the taste. It was a complete failure, and what they did was they went back to the old formula and called it Coke Classic. So that was one big change, and that was a real big stir, going back to Coke Classic. And the second thing was, in the early 1990s, there was the Gulf War. And that made a big change of people staying at home and watching televisions, and they weren't going out to clubs, pubs, and nightclubs, and they were going to supermarkets a lot. And unfortunately for all the soft drinks companies, it meant that there was a big drop in their profits because people were spending more time at home, not going out. Now, because of that, my particular role and all of our team were made redundant. So that was a change as well. But a few of us started to join a small startup with the idea to have a high quality premium cola, 25% or more less than Coca-Cola. And we wanted to experiment to see what would happen. if we launched that. And we did it on a very, very small scale with Sainsbury's. And the name of the product for this 25% off high quality cola was called, we decided to call it Sainsbury's Classic Cola. Now, using that that name, Classic, really was quite sensitive. And Coca-Cola responded by putting an advert in all the national papers. And what they said was, they said, if you see this product, it's not real Coke, so don't buy it. And as a result of that, everybody saw it in all the national newspapers, and they went out and they bought it. And consequently, in Sainsbury's, the share of Coke went down from 44% to 9%, and from Pepsi Cola from 21% down to almost half. So that was a big stir. It was in all the newspapers. And then the other multiples in the UK said, well, if Sainsbury's have got a high quality, cheaper cola, we'll have one. So all the multiples then suddenly launched their high quality cola. And then that was a success, and the consumers benefited. And they said, well, if we're doing it for cola, why don't we do it for other product categories like coffee and chocolate and other foods? So they launched their own premium, different types of foods, and that became standard. And if you go shopping now in the UK, you'll see there's so many premium brands like Tesco's Finest and lots of other premium products. So it just goes to show, as a summary, I think if you experiment, you just never know what human behavior is, how the companies are going to react. You never know what the reaction is going to be. And you may benefit society by having lower prices. So that's my story.
Give me a clap. Thank you, Jim, for sharing your story. Experimenting in times of uncertainty. Anyone like to share a comment, ask a question?
What? Yeah, sorry, Fraser, go.
You'll have to unmute, Fraser. We could all unmute now, actually. It might be easier for this bit.
I think the points you just made are very, very true, Jim, especially now. Everybody's very reticent to test, to spend, to invest. And yet there's a plethora of opportunity around us. And with social media, we can get a message out to a very specific target audience at low cost, no cost, without having to buy advertising like they used to do in the press, without having to invest in large traffic systems. Just test it for free to a specific audience to see whether your message is engaging with them. So you're right, people should be testing all the time.
Actually, I could just add something on that. I think also now, I mean, in a few years' time, we'll have 7.5 billion people connected. That's another thing. So you can put your message out to different countries for free. So I think that's another thing as well, before you can do that. So I think, any other questions at all?
No, just a comment. When I was in Saudi, I had friends that worked for Pepsi, for the Pepsi bottling plant. And that they had this huge dilemma. They used to sell a lot of Pepsi through vending machines, and it was 1 Saudi riyal, which was about 20 pence or something. But they needed to increase the price, and the machines wouldn't take coins. So to increase the price meant 2 Saudi riyals, which was 100% rise. So that they ended up basically subsidizing the drinks in the machines, and they put the prices up in the supermarkets. It was a real problem they had at the time. And my friend that worked for them was in the marketing department, and he said he just didn't know how they would handle it at first. But they went ahead in the end, and they had to put up the price of the drinks in the machines by 100%.
Wow.
To get the machines to work.
It's a huge amount.
I have a question for Jim. Why do you think people reacted the way that they did when they saw Coke's advertisements? How come they went out and how come they didn't take Coca-Cola's word for it? Why do you think that is?
What I think is what they're effectively doing is advertising that they're focused on the taste rather than the image. That's what they actually did by saying it's, go out. They said, don't buy it. As soon as you say don't buy it, people are going to do the opposite. Like a child, if you say don't do that, you're going to do it. And it focused people on the taste rather than what Coke is. And any brand is really an image. If you take a perfume, it's an image. The products, in many cases, are very, very similar. But it's an image. So they took people's attention from the image and all the advertising they've done to the actual product. And that's what they did with New Cola. They made a mistake there. That was a classic mistake. They focused people on the taste rather than on the on the image.
Wow. Got a comment here from Phil saying, that was great, Jim. It's beautifully illustrates that opportunities and possibilities abound, particularly in tough times. Did you want to say something, Fraser, before we move on?
Very quickly, British Airways took the Union Jack off their tails and decided to redesign them a number of years ago. And within 10 days, Mr. Branson put the Union Jack on the tail of all his aircraft. And British Airways lost billions in valuation, and they lost billions in share price. Their street cred went down. The number of bookings they had went down. And of course, it implied for Mr. Branson that he was the preferred British airline for everybody, and all his sales and transactions went up. Wow. So they ruined the brand and the positioning they had, and they should just have left it. So yeah, you're right.
Thank you. So we might have some more questions for each other as we go. So we can always put them into the private chat or the comments. I'm going to ask Ellie to come to the solo layout in a moment. If we could all mute again. And I'm going to welcome you now to the stage. Here you go. You ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Z Scott. I am airing from Long Beach, California in the United States. And the title of my talk is Being a Single Mom and How I Balance That with Music and Marketing. So when I found out that I was going to have my bundle of joy of my son, I was really excited. I was really looking forward to how bonding with my son. I was looking forward to spending time with my son. I'm really a nurturer. One of the things that a lot of my clients can tell you is that I'm very hands-on. They're more than just my clients, they're my friends. And so when it comes to my son, I am especially concerned about all aspects of his well-being. So when he was a baby, I was in the process of formulating my brand, the SEO Queen. And at that time, he slept a lot. He slept a lot. And that gave me a lot of flexibility to, brainstorm and collaborate with Fraser Hay and to just get my ideas and concepts together. So when he was born in 2014, I started doing the soft launch of the SEO Queen around 2015. So when 2 years had passed from my son's birth, I began to, he was more active, and but my business at the same time required more of my attention. And so one thing that I can say that has been a blessing throughout this COVID time is I've learned how to switch gears with my son and really be intentional about spending time with him and making sure he's squared away, and just creating more boundaries. I have continued to tweak my business model to accommodate the changes in the demands as a mother. One of the things that brings me a lot of joy is seeing my son grow. He's studying both English and Spanish. And I love to use this app called Duolingo with him so we can go over Spanish together. And sometimes I even talk to him in Spanish. And it's a good thing. I think one thing that I'm learning is to, really, look at my needs as a mother and my son's needs as my child to, tweak, to not be afraid to tweak my business model in order to, make sure that we have that family time. One thing that I have done is I have a tech support dashboard, And I encourage my clients to submit everything through there so we can reduce the amount of phone calls. And I also, try to, respect those boundaries. One of the tougher things about being an entrepreneur and a single mom is I'm a little bit of a workaholic too. So I tend to like to work through projects, but I can say that my son has a lot of my same personality traits. He will not be denied. So if I get too absorbed, he knows how to get my attention. So I think, being a single mom and entrepreneur is definitely a challenge, but I'm really blessed. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge and thank my parents who have been very supportive, and also acknowledge my boyfriend as well. He's been very supportive, and my siblings as well. So I think, family has been a blessing. When there's problems, just being flexible and being able to resolve them. And sometimes, deadlines need to be revisited and retooled because you only have one family and one life. And so that's pretty much how I balance it all. There is more, but we don't have time for all the things that I do. That's like a high level view.
Thank you. We'll have to come off on mute now. Okay, questions for Z. Comments for Z. Well done, thank you.
Z, you're a professional violinist as well. So how do you manage the big gigs? And you've got your podcast. You're doing work for clients. You're very active online in various groups. How do you manage? Are you using software to schedule your time? Because you've got a big presence online.
One thing that I do is I like to schedule out my goals by times, and I also am not afraid to delegate. I've been delegating a lot. I have a transnational team. I have team members in different continents who work on a full-time basis, and without my team, I would not be able to do the things that I do. And I've always had a team member. I can honestly say, since I've started my business, I've always had extra hands on deck. And that has definitely been a blessing.
Cool.
Thank you, Z. Thank you, Fraser.
Actually, that transnational team, are they freelance, the people who work for you?
No, they're all full-time dedicated to my company.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mm.
Yeah, I have a full-time bookkeeper, a full-time developer, and I have a full-time generalist that does things that I put them on.
General.
Yes.
How many countries is it over? Is that of many countries or just the States?
I have the full-time people that I have are out of 2 countries, and then I have some other teams that I work with that are in other countries, but they're not full-time. They just support in certain things on a regular basis.
Okay. That's fine.
And do you intend your son to go into the business one day?
Absolutely. He even has his own website already, and he's also been included in some of the marketing and advertising campaigns. Yeah, and we actually did a professional photo shoot in the fall of last year, and that was really fun because I got to get him all dressed up. I got to get dressed up, and we have some nice family portraits that we can look back on and really smile and be proud of. It's some great family memories. That's one other thing that I definitely do is I try to include him in as much of the business activities as possible. And I can say that he is a great listener. He knows how to take messages. He's only 6, and he's just brilliant. Like one of my clients came to the house one day, and I wasn't available, and he let her in, took a message, and I was so impressed.
And if you want to find out more about our speakers this evening and see a picture of Z and her son, then it's in this document here, bit.ly/random dialogues. We've got our JPEG from this evening with our speakers and a little bit more about them in our talks, and our talks. Well, most of us will be putting our talks from here into that document as well, which one day will be published. Work in progress, testing, experimenting. Thank you, Z.
Thank you
very much. Right, so from violins to guitars, and I'm going to ask Bob, please, to come and take the stage. So if we all go on to mute, I'm going to put you in solo layout. Here you go.
Well, hi everyone. I wasn't quite sure what to talk about, so I decided to talk about some time I spent in Saudi Arabia playing music, basically. Well, that wasn't obviously my full-time profession. So I called my talk Guitars and Guns, playing rock music in Saudi Arabia. I lived in Saudi for 17 years, during which time I lived in all 3 major cities. As you may or may not know, public performance of music was banned at that time, although things are changing now. Westerners mainly lived in housing compounds, which were private housing, basically housing estates, which were secure compounds where you could live a Western lifestyle. Musical events could happen in these places, and that's where we played the most. Events could also take place in the various embassies and consulates that were in most major cities. Alcohol was available in these places, but obviously not in public. After the terror attacks of 2004, Western compounds became heavily guarded by the National Guard, hence Guitars and Guns. We were basically living under armed guard. Compound and embassy access was strictly controlled. A list of the band and guests, along with copy IDs, was always needed up front for any event. The US Embassy went even further, and apparently all the names were checked with Homeland Security. Once you were vetted by Homeland Security and your name came up for another event, you were okay. Also, the US often required a whole list of the equipment we were bringing with us, which was quite a pain in the neck, but necessary in those days. Vehicles and people were searched on entry to compounds and to embassies for such events. And the embassy, the US Embassy, even going to the point of x-raying our guitars at times. It was a strange environment, but this is the price you had to pay if you wanted to play music there. On one occasion, the US Embassy in Riyadh did us a huge favor and arranged to collect all our equipment using a diplomatic vehicle. When they returned the equipment, there was a case of real American beer in there, which was highly prized and much welcome in Riyadh. In Jeddah, the US consulate security was very, very tight. They had a bomb-proof room, and I can recall driving my vehicle into there. There was no daylight in there, and these 2 hydraulic rams came in front of the car, so you couldn't ram the door. And they basically scanned the car underneath and checked for bombs. It was a strange environment to play in. Our first show in Saudi Arabia, when I was there, first of all, was in Riyadh. And we played the most amazing venue that you can imagine. It was hard to imagine you're in Saudi Arabia. It was on one of the upmarket housing compounds, and they actually had an outdoor amphitheater. And for those of you that know what Red Rocks is like in America, where U2 and Neil Young play, it reminded us of this phenomenal environment. Going back then, when we moved on, British Aerospace had a huge presence in Riyadh and Dammam at the time, supporting the planes that the UK was selling them. They had many, many housing compounds for Westerners, which were private for their own employees. Each of these had a bar. It was home-brewed alcohol, but they had bars and function rooms. Most of our shows that we played in Riyadh and in Dammam were in these private compounds. Going back to when we were in Jeddah at one point, we played the US consulate there, and they had a marine bar, it was called, where the young Marines would drink, and we played an outdoor show there. And again, it was a surreal experience. There's armed guards stood on the roof watching over us, and our sound light guy decides it would be fun to beam laser beams around the place. So he's beaming red spots around that looked like gun sights. It was funny now, but at the time it was not amusing, but interesting. There was another time where we spent the whole afternoon setting up in Jeddah. This was the American consulate again, only to be told about half an hour before the show was due to start that it was cancelled. There was a terrorist threat. So that was it, guys. Pack up everything and leave, basically. And the joys of playing there, you know. But, 1 second. When we lived in Jeddah, we had the pleasure to play 2 massive shows in the American International School of Jeddah. They had these 2 family fun fundraising days, and these were massive. We were talking 9,000 people in there. Unfortunately, the second time, they just went crazy and kept letting too many people in the gates, and there was almost a riot. The National Guard got called out, and basically that was the last year they actually managed to run it. They let the event carry on, but if you can imagine, we're all inside and we're hearing that the National Guard are outside. It was a strange environment. It was also very surreal to be playing on stage, a massive stage with all these people, young Saudis in normal dress, also Saudis in traditional dress. It was a very surreal experience, but it was a fantastic atmosphere, I must say. There was another occasion where we were playing in Jeddah. We played on a private compound, which was called Lotus, which was predominantly for French people. It was a Battle of the Bands type event. There was homebrewed alcohol. It all went well. As I was leaving the event, probably midnight, I noticed the Matawa, the religious police, had arrived, and they seemed to be with the compound management. And apparently, they'd let a young Arab boy in who they refused to serve alcohol. He promptly called the authorities, and the authorities decided to raid the place. The rest of my band ended up spending the night hiding in people's villas so they wouldn't get caught. Technically, they couldn't. The religious police couldn't raid a Western compound, but because the compound management weren't aware what was going on, they let them in. It ended up with the organizer, one of the French guys, actually lost his job and was basically deported as a result. So even though events were running on Western compounds, there were risks involved. And there was another big event where, just to illustrate some of the pitfalls of playing in Saudi Arabia, there was the King Abdulaziz University of Science and Technology, a huge university with massive supercomputers. The Saudis have pumped millions into this place. Every year they organize this food festival. This was a big event, 6,000 plus people. And we were booked to headline the show. And they had this massive stage, just like the stages you'll see on any big band, with big screens behind. Security was a nightmare to get in there. It took us hours to get in, with the cars being searched, checking lists and gates and blah, blah, blah. We got in there, we couldn't sound check. Eventually, they were going to raffle 2 brand new cars was the prizes. And they decided to raffle these 2 cars before we were going to play. So a crowd of thousands became a crowd of a few hundred as they all promptly left after the draw. A bit of an anticlimax, but hey, that was the fun of playing there. Also, when we were playing outside, we played predominantly outside in Jeddah on one of the Western compounds. The music could be heard outside. And if you're aware of Saudi Arabia, prayer time is 5 times a day, 2 in the evening. So we had to plan our set lists and our breaks around prayer time. We couldn't be playing when they were praying outside, or we would have caused a huge problem and probably end up getting banned. So again, part of the fun of playing there. There was quite a strong, vibrant underground music scene because the youngsters had nowhere to play in public. And I can recall being invited to one show, and it was basically a guy's private house. And down in this house was this underground, it was like a club with 100 seats. So yeah, where there's a will, there's a way, as they say. So that's what it was like. Guns and guitars. Fun and enjoyable, but a hell of an experience.
Wow.
Thank you. Well, apologies for my technical error there. Put myself into solo layout. Thank you very much. Have we got any questions? Have we got any questions from the viewers? Got a few people tuning in. Have you got any questions for Bob?
Did you have any close calls with the religious police?
Well, that time in the compound, I was leaving as they were coming in. But normally on a Western compound, no. But we did play one show outside, as it was, and basically someone had to stand at the end of the road and keep an eye out that they weren't coming, basically. So, but we had run-ins with the religious police as a family in shopping malls and stuff. My wife was blonde, and they didn't like blonde women not wearing their headscarves. But inside a housing compound, you could basically do what you liked. Yeah.
Bob, I've just shared this YouTube. You asked me to share something. Can you? I've just put it into the.
There is one of the track we played at the Jeddah school. There's just that's one of the songs we were playing, just to give you an idea of what it was like in there and the size of the crowd. It was absolutely unbelievable. to think that here we are in the middle of Saudi Arabia in Jeddah, and it was like Woodstock. It's just a phenomenal experience. And the fact that these youngsters knew most of the songs we were playing. They knew Kings of Leon and stuff like this. It was actually staggering.
Well, I'll leave that there.
What other songs did you play? Actually, I was interested in that. What was the repertoire?
I'm trying to remember the kind of stuff we played there. I mean, basically we played lots of rock covers, U2, and we did. I remember in Jeddah we were playing at the big show. We played Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, that I Love Rock and Roll, and I thought that's the one they would react to, but no, it was the Kings of Leon, Someone Like You, the one that they went crazy for, you know, and singing along every word. Guys, stage diving, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
We used to play, you know, some Beatles stuff, some U2, we play, all manner of things really, but rock stuff for, I mean, bear in mind we're playing to a Western audience mainly, so middle-aged Westerners in housing compounds, so that kind of, a bit of T-Rex, bit of, this kind of stuff.
Well, I'm going to put your link into the chat, so afterwards people can have a look at it as well. So it'll go into the main comments.
We were playing Hound Dog on that show, but you can see the crowd, and the girl singing was a black girl from London, whose husband worked with me in Mercedes, and you know, she goes down into the crowd, and I thought, this is dangerous. Not one guy actually laid a finger on her, which was really surprising. You can imagine, it was a hell of an experience.
Thank you, Bob. So we'll find out more about your YouTube clip later. I'll put it into the comments, and it'll be in the main doc. And thank you very much for sharing your story. Robin, are you okay to come into solo layout? I don't throw myself into it.
I'm ready for
it. You ready? Okay, here goes.
Well, the first thing I want to say is it's quite extraordinary how many of us who are talking are actually musicians. There's guitars in the background and speakers and whatever. Anyway, so I'm going to chat to you a little bit about what to say and what not to say. But hearing Jim's chat about Coca-Cola, it just sort of reminded me how counterintuitive some things can be, and how the populace can go in a way that is completely unexpected. So whilst my talk will be about things that should be said and behavioral institutions, obviously the human being and the human race is something completely different and can never be 100% relied upon. Anyway, so what I was going to talk about was I have a number of books online, and I've never really checked how well they're selling. But I did eventually the other day, and I was much surprised to discover that my bestseller was a book called Power Words. And basically it's a book examining 50 or so of the most powerful words and phrases to use in everyday life, but particularly in negotiating, because I lecture on negotiating. And I was reminded how all this started. Many years ago, I was at a business breakfast meeting, the BNI, and I was looking for someone to help me with some social media. And there was a guy there who I thought would be the man. And he stood up, and his pitch was something like this. We've been in business for many years and specialize in trying to get more visitors to your website. And we work out of offices that are very attractive and overlook the River Thames. None of those things I needed to know. And the word that really put me off was, of course, trying. What I wanted to hear was someone who would say something like, you want more visitors to your site, we will make that happen. More visitors means more sales, and this means more money. So you can easily see the attraction of going with someone that said that, which is what I wanted to hear. And maybe it might be a British thing, we tend to be a bit self-deprecating. But just how important it is to get the right words, it's sort of reflected in the government, or the government's nudge unit rather. Now, I don't know if you know about this, but it's now been renamed the Behavioral Insight Team. And basically, they check on what documents are going out to the general public to encourage us to do things, pay our taxes or whatever. And they have been so successful, they sell their services around the world now. So it's no longer called the Nudge Unit. It's, as I say, the Behavioral Insights Team. And one of the examples that they did was a few years ago, we were all told that we no longer needed to put a paper road tax in our cars to prove that we paid our road tax. And all this meant was that the amount of tax revenue they collected plummeted because people didn't bother because they thought they would get away with it. And the behavioral team was put on the case, and they added just a line to the demand. And the line was, pay your road tax or lose your vehicle. And apparently this had the most phenomenal success in getting people to pay their tax. They paid, or 40% more revenue came in after that was put onto the tax demands. And it's not necessarily, or it's important to make sure that what you're saying is clear. And sorry, I'm ranting a bit, and I'm supposed to be saying you should be talking about how you should be talking clear. But anyway, so you've obviously all been to hotels, and you'll have come across the little cards that say something like, help the environment, please. Reuse your towel. And most people will probably take that up and use their towel a couple of times. But if they add the words 90% of our visitors do, the uptake of this is huge. There's sort of social compliance that is expected of people. So it's very important to get your words right. Pretty clear, but anyway. So just to sort of round off, the title was What Words Not to Use, and it's pretty obvious, but still people will say, oh, maybe, possibly, perhaps, try, might, unsure. These aren't good words to use in a negotiating situation or a purchasing situation or just a daily situation. The words you want to be using are can, will, may, definitely, sure, positive, yes, of course, anything that's positive, not on the negative side. And finally, I just want to talk to you about what I call the magic S, which is still on topic, but slightly off topic, if you like. And some words can change their meaning completely, or meaning in one's mind completely, by adding an S. So if you take a situation like an advert, Betty Crocker's recipes make a better cake. Now, if you just add an S in there to the make and make it makes, it will be something like Betty Crocker's recipes makes a better cake. It seems in the mind that the cake is made for you. Or let's think about clean your house faster with Joe's mops. You're still going to do the work yourself, but if you say Joe's mops cleans your house faster, then overtly you're told the mop will do the cleaning for you. So a little magic S. Well, there we are, folks. That's all I've got to rant about. That's me done. Thank you. Well, I was going to say, if anyone wanted a copy of the Power Words, I'll put it up free. There'll be a link, I guess. Jane can sort that out as a link to how they can get it free if they wanted it.
Yeah. And also you're in the, well, you're just in the process of publishing a book, aren't you, for March?
Yes. I've tackled the tricky subject of rewriting Alice in Wonderland, and I have my version of Alice in Wonderland coming out at the 1st of March, actually. It's called Alice Ventures Beyond Wonderland.
Aimed for adults or for all?
It's written in very much the same way as the original, so it's suitable for adults to read. I'd rather imagine adults will read it aloud to children.
Right.
It's got all the political nuances and the in jokes, but an 8 or 9-year-old child could sit down and read it and enjoy it just as much as an adult.
Interesting.
We're both from Guildford, so Lewis Carroll spent time in Guildford. Is that what inspired you, do you feel, to write it?
Well, I'd always had the idea, so it was rather convenient that I could say it was because Lewis Carroll lived in Guildford for a while. But yeah, there's a nice overlap, if nothing else.
Yeah, there's lots of Alice memorabilia around, isn't there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll have to get you to help me write the copy for promoting the events.
Yes.
The art of persuasion. Anyone else got any? Oh, there's a comment. Let's have a look in the.
Yes, I would love a copy of those power words.
Yes, please.
Yeah. That could be. Well, I can let you have a copy.
Fabulous. Okay. So if we've got anything, we might think of some more questions as we go. And I'm going to ask now Fraser to come and speak. Are you ready, Fraser? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just put you into your sound's not sounding so good, but it might be when you're going to solo. It's okay. Let's put you into solo.
Is it working now?
It's okay.
Tell you what, if I do that.
It's not very loud.
Fraser, move your mic down closer to your mouth.
There.
You muted yourself.
Oh, yeah, you've gone on to mute. Here we go.
Oh, cooking with gas. Yeah?
Yeah.
Excellent. You can see I'm not the techie in the team. Right. Resilience is what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, when you think of the word resilience, not life coachy la, not academia, resilience. One definition could be how to withstand or recover from a situation in life or business. Well, tonight I'm not going to talk about when I was shot. No, I'll save that for another night. I'm not going to talk about COVID, but last year I was walking along a beach with my wife. Saturday morning, out for a walk, didn't feel too well. And Wendy wanted to walk along the beach and up the cliffs. I just wasn't right. Before I knew it, I started shaking and I was rushed into hospital. I was all wired up and I was in an IV for 10 days. It was a sepsis infection and I nearly died. Now, the word COVID never came into my vocabulary last year because when you're self-employed, you work from home. I've been a business coach and marketing consultant for 20 years. I've put 4 girls through university doing what I do and helping other people to start and grow their business. But quite often I get approached. People want to know how to. And there is a process when it comes to marketing, and it's 3 steps. But most people get it the wrong way around. And many people want to know how to generate leads, backlinks, traffic, signups, registrations, improve their cash flow, generate sales and revenue, and even referrals or multiple streams of revenue. That's good, but that's step 3. That's the how-to, the tactics, step 3. And many people, when their business isn't going well, they might watch a video, they might download a Kindle book, or they might buy a book, they might go to a seminar or hire someone to come in and do the how-to, the tactical bit. Oh, we're not getting leads, let's do Facebook advertising. But unfortunately, many of these tactics on their own fail. And they fail because the person who's been asked to do the job to solve the problem and do all the how-to is doing it in isolation and hasn't been included in the previous 2 steps. They're just a third party. And the person who's got the problem and the issue is not taking ownership. They're delegating it to that third person, that external individual who's coming in to try and come up with a tactic to solve the problem. So prior to that stage is step 2. The plan. And as some of the speakers have spoken about earlier this evening, for me, you take the plan into 4 parts. Number 1 is the message. As Robin was saying, you can't go out generating leads if your message is wrong. But more importantly, people communicate one of 3 ways. Visually, as Jim was speaking about how branding can change and images can change. But we communicate visually, auditorily. Many of us are listening to this podcast, watching this webinar and video, and many of us are reading the chat. So 33% of your audience prefer to receive a message visually. They like to look at it. Some like to hear it. And podcasts as an industry have grown up phenomenally in the last couple of years. And people still like to meet people, even if they're masked up and they're 6 feet apart, 2 meters apart, people still like to meet. So if your message is wrong and you're choosing the wrong communication style, if somebody likes to hear a message and you want them to read a long email, you've lost them. Conversely, if you want them to hear the message and they want to read it and vice versa, you could be losing up to 33% visually, 33% auditory, and 33% kinesthetically. And you don't know, out of 100% of the audience coming to your website, who likes a message in what way. Do they prefer bullet points, long text, testimonials? Do they prefer graphs? Do they prefer to see awards? What do they want? So you need to make sure that your plan covers the message. You need to be able to generate leads. Once you get a lead, you need to be able to convert it into a sale. And you need to create a system that's going to manage and systemize and automate all of that. But who's your audience? Do you know who you're targeting? Right now, write down who you want to target. Write down what the problems are you're going to solve. What human, technical, financial resources have you got right now to resource this plan that you need to find the right people and technology to generate the leads that you want using the tactics you're going to be using? But even if you get all of that right, and you write and plan your strategy and you've got it documented, and I bet you right now, less than 15% of those watching or listening to this webinar actually have a written plan of action to get them out of their current situation. But prior to step 2, the plan, and before step 3, the why and the tactics, before we get to the strategy and the plan, number 1, your mindset. Why is it not working at the moment? You're probably anxious. You're probably frustrated. You're probably stressed in the current climate. How are you going to be improving your cash flow? How are you going to be getting out your card debt? How are you going to reduce your mortgage? What are you trying to do to cover your overheads without getting a government loan or more grants from the government? It's simple. You need to reprogram your mindset. 3 things. You need to be interactive, proactive, and responsive with your target audience. And resilience, remember, is being able to withstand, keep going, or recover from a situation. So what do we need to do? We need to identify, very simply, what's holding us back and preventing us from achieving the results we want. So how do we do that? Well, in a second, I'm going to tell you. We need to do a marketing audit. We need to identify where we're at so we can decide what it is we want and how we're going to do it. We need to identify what is the real things and the issues and the breakthroughs we need to get us to generate those backlinks, traffic, signups, registrations. You're all good at what you do. Even those watching this on replay probably have a product, service, or solution that they know is good. They're just not getting it out there. And the reason why they're not getting it out there is they're focusing on the wrong end. Stop thinking about the tactics and the how-to. Before that, get your plan and your strategy written very, very simply. But before that, mindset. We just need to make sure that we've planned out why our current marketing isn't working. And then we prioritize just 3 things that you want to fix or address. Come up with a plan of action. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it practical. I'm a Scotsman. I hate spending money. You hate spending money. I hate spending other people's money. So we need to make sure that every penny counts. And as Jim pointed out earlier on, you don't need to spend millions or tens of thousands on your marketing. You need to test it small. Keep it for free. And as founder of Grow Your Business Club, I decided to set up a group on Facebook. And in the last 18 months, of which I lost 6 months because I nearly died from a sepsis infection, and because I had to wear an air cast boot because I thought I was going to lose my leg, I've been able to get through that by staying focused. I've got a message. I can generate leads. I can convert them into sales, and I've got a system that's replicable, and you guys need that as well. So as a thank you for Jane inviting me on tonight, I'll finish with 2 little things. As a thank you, 2 thank yous. Number 1, if you haven't got the mindset in place to help you stay focused, and if you haven't planned, documented, or executed a current marketing plan for 21, and if you just do not know how to raise your profile, get awareness, and get your message out there, then yes, by all means, look at one of the 21 books I've got on Amazon. But please do sign up to Grow Your Business Club, because I want to offer my help, guidance, and support where I can. And request a free copy of my Happreneur book, The Art of Becoming a Happreneur, so I can help you program your mindset and come up with the strategy and tactics you need to help you sell your products, services, and solutions this year. Thank you. Hey, there we go, Jen.
Did not need to turn the volume up after all.
Very passionate.
Thank you, Fraser.
We're all passionate. We're all passionate our own way. We communicate in different ways, and that's how live streaming and video connects 66% of your audience, because they can hear you and see you.
Yes.
So, I apologise for being a Scotsman, so there we go.
Thank you, Fraser. And I've got to follow you, Fraser. I mean, gosh, I should have put you last. So we've got 7 minutes or 8 minutes till 8 o'clock. Anyone got a quick question for Fraser? Maybe we can add afterwards. If I finish with mine, then we'll have sort of hopefully some time after. I don't want to follow Fraser. So I've since we used to run random dialogues in the pub. It used to be we used to grab a crowd and have people come speak, play music, play guitar, read poetry, and then changed last year and went online. So I'm always experimenting and testing using StreamYard. And tonight, obviously, I've cocked up a couple of times, but so here we are. So thank you for being here tonight, everybody. It's wonderful, and it is. I'm out of my comfort zone doing it, and I'm going to now just share my speech. Now, the reason I'm going to now flick screens because I'm going to read mine off of my Google Doc. So if you're watching this and thinking I'd like to come and speak sometime, and I'm a bit nervous about doing it, and I'm not sure about doing free flow, well, I'm just going to read most of mine off my Google Doc. So I'm going to flick screens. Sometimes it takes me out of solo layout and it comes back into this. That's tech. So if I do, that's what's happened. So bear with, I'm going to now go into solo and change my screen. So I'll see you all in four minutes or so. So solo layout, my talk. Okay, so February 2021, we're into Random Dialogues 15, Stand Up and Speak for Yourself, and what to talk about tonight. Share your secret of being able to do so much and stay focused and energized, escaping to the trees. Most folk don't know where to start or how to get started in the morning, and you're always bursting with energy online, suggested our Fraser. So, well, I'm not sure what the secret is. I didn't leave my parents feeling so good when I was a kid with my early morning wake-ups and restless energy. I've always been, I guess, quite excited about waking up and about life. Last month, I spoke about how speaking from the heart can help solve world problems, and I'll share that when I go back into the stream, and I wrote it as a blog. And I think, I feel that we've all spoken from our heart this evening about something we wanted to speak about, and we might have been feeling a bit nervous, some of us, but we've all kind of connected and been true and honest with what we've been saying. So mine was about how can waking up with lots of creative energy benefit others? So how can my energy help? And what do I do to so that I can share with you too. So here's 8 things I do in case it does creatively nudge you. I'm asleep usually by 10. I usually wake at about 5. The day begins with translating my dreams into a book. I might just write down what I've dreamt about. And that might mean going downstairs in the morning to do that if my husband's not gone to work, because he has to go to work early as a journalist. Sometimes I meditate in the morning and have some quiet time. Most days I practice yoga. I've been practicing yoga for at least 30 years, and it's something that I weave into my work that I do with people and particularly with children. I squeeze a bit of lemon into hot water in the morning to have a morning lemonizer, and I guess that's quite an energizer. Followed by a high protein breakfast of scrambled egg with toast, and I generally over the day will have quite a balance of protein to keep my blood sugar stable. And then a rest in the day. I don't know how many of you take a rest in the day, and I think it's really quite important to have that downtime at some point where you just stop, especially busy mums. You've got that bedtime looming, that tea time looming, and you just need to have that pause before you kind of need to re-energize for that part of the day when times can get tough and our energy gets lower. So have that rest. Tree hugging is optional. Wandering around the woods is definitely a great way for me to energize and a great source of inspiration. So I spin a lot of plates, and I work on a lot of projects simultaneously. And to some I appear maybe unfocused, yet it's my way of doing and being, and means I get a lot of stuff done. And I'm always, doing that, but I'm not always the most detailed person. And mostly I follow what I love to do. In 2012, I set up a group called Love What We Do. And Random Dialogues was the speaking arm of that, connecting people to what they love to do most through conversation, connections, and community. Steve Jobs wrote, "You've got to find what you love." And that is as true for your work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And I guess for many, young people, maybe if they watch this or I work with, we're going to have, is there that 9 to 5 anymore? Is there that work? I think we're going to have very portfolio careers. And I think it is important to follow what we love to do, and importantly to have, connections and community around us. So how do we find what we love to do? I think most of us would agree that it's good to find places where we belong, where we can express ourselves and test ideas and try things out, as we've also, alluded to tonight, not to be afraid to give things a go. I guess that's where my energy comes from, the association of good people, community, belonging, the randomness that it creates and manifests from those associations. I've got a book here. It's Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. My father had an original 1937 copy next to his bed, even at the end. And he brought us girls, my sister and I, he brought us up on a lot of the wisdom from this, whether he buy into it or not, but I feel it was a very early, very pioneering personal development book. And I was looking at it tonight, just popped into it to think about how could it influence what I was going to say tonight about energizing and community. And there's a section called The Power of the Mastermind. And it says, no two minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. So, thank you for energizing me this evening. I'm out of my comfort zone. I like to do things, try things, test things, investigate things, and it does, I guess, kind of always keep me on that edge. It's great that you've all been here tonight, and I hope that you feel energized and inspired by this evening too, and it's a catalyst for other stuff for you as well. So I'm going to now exit the solo layout. There.
Thank you.
So that brings us to 2 minutes to 8 o'clock. Anyone? Fraser?
Muted.
Oh, muted. Volume.
Got one eye and colourblind, and I can't see with the colours. Other story. Right. The book Think and Grow Rich. There was one word taken out of the original manuscript before the publishers would run with it. Can you remember what it was?
It was something about spirituality, wasn't it? Or think and grow.
Yeah, the publishers declined to publish the book until they took out the word vibration, because they said nobody would buy it. And now here we are 100 years later, and everybody is doing everything energetically, whether it's their yoga, whether it's connecting on a StreamYard video webinar, using the internet. More than ever, vibration is prominent in everybody's marketing, and we're all connecting. So very interesting that you take something from 100 years ago and how it's so relevant today, and more so with the mastermind groups. I'm just out
Absolutely.
the boardroom with the Grow Your Business Club on Facebook, so totally get it. Totally, yeah.
Yeah. And Random Dialogues for me is a mastermind. You know, it is about people who get random dialogues, don't necessarily want structure routine. They like to flow in a more of a random way, and from the randomness comes the creativity and the doing and the structure and the routine in its own way. It's about following your interests, I think, following your passions, following what you love to do, and then being with others to share that.
Yeah, I think the meaning of life is to discover your gift, and the purpose of life is to share it. And it's through opportunities like this where we can meet random people for the first time and get to understand how selfless they are with the skills, talents, and assets they've got for sharing to other people. And if we can remember them, each of them, and so we can recommend and refer them to our connections, our lists, who knows where it can lead? Who knows?
Thank you, Fraser. So just before we leave, it's 8 o'clock now, 8:01 actually, when we finish at 8. But then could we just all check out with one word, you know, a feeling, an emotion, something that we just would like to share, just very quickly, one word. And if you've been watching too, thank you. Ian's joined us too. Thank you, Phil and Ian, for joining us this evening. If you want to check out with a word as well, I'll quickly go round. Z.
Connection.
Jim.
Opportunities.
Fraser.
Mindset.
Bob.
Inspiring.
Robin.
Friendship.
I'll say energy, and I don't know if the others have commented, but they might do later on. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for watching. We're back next month, second Wednesday of every month, for Random Dialogues. If you like what you see and we feel like you're your tribe and you want to join some of our groups, then hop into the Random Dialogues group on Facebook. Obviously, join Fraser's group as well, and we'll see you there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, everybody, and goodbye.
Bye.
Excellent. Thanks, June. Thank you.
Bye.